This timeline I'm about to talk about is about the American Revolution, and the events are taking place from 1775 to 1790. And the first thing I'm going to be talking about is George Washington, Commander-in-Chief for the American Army. And I thought it was cool that not only was he the President of the United States, but he was also the Commander-in-Chief in the Army during the American Revolution. And the reason why he was chosen is because when they were electing the Commander-in-Chief, he was compared to competitors such as John Hancock, and because he was elected, he had more war experience, and Congress had a hope that a leader from Virginia could help unite the colonies. And he did not receive pay for his position because he requested that he shouldn't receive a salary because he thought he was just doing service for his country and that it was just the right thing to do and he didn't need to be paid for it. The next event on the timeline is the Declaration of Independence, which took place in 1776. The goal and purpose of the Declaration of Independence was to become a free country by declaring independence on Great Britain after many years of taxing and British troops going all over the place by King George III. Five people were appointed to a committee to draft a Declaration of Independence. These 5 people included Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert R. Livingston. Although there are a lot more signatures on the Declaration of Independence, these were the original 5. How did the Declaration of Independence help other countries? The Declaration of Independence not only helped America, it also helped other countries, especially France. It helped France to get land back from Britain that they took away from them. It also helped them in the French Revolution. The next event on the timeline are the Articles of Confederation, which took place in 1777. The Articles of Confederation were first written. The first draft was sent on June 12, 1776, and it wasn't adopted until November 15, 1777. There had to be a lot of discussion about the Articles because establishing a government and rules for the United States was very important. The original purpose for the Articles was to make the 13 states more unified and compact, and also to create a stable government for each state. Sadly, this goal was not reached. The realistic outcomes of the Articles of Confederation was a loose confederation of sovereign states and a weak central government. The next event on our timeline was a very important event in helping the American Revolution. It was the Treaty of Alliance with France, which took place in 1777 and 1778. The reason why the French formed an alliance with the Americans was so that American condition would be a condition of any future peace agreement, and because the British took away from France, so the French kind of wanted to just get revenge on the British after the French-Indian War when they took all their land. Who does Congress send to France and why? Congress sent Benjamin Franklin, Silas Deane, and Arthur Lee in order to secure aids of various kinds from France, and they also were sent to other countries for the exact same reason. The treaty was finally signed on February 6, 1778, along with the Treaty of Amity and Commerce with France. The next event on the timeline could contend with the Declaration of Independence for being maybe the most important event in American Revolution history, the Treaty of Paris, which took place in 1783. When and where was the treaty signed? The treaty was signed on September 3, 1783. But before that, it was being discussed about from 1982. There were many peace talks taking place. It was ratified on April 29, 1784. Most of the events with the Treaty of Paris were taking place in Annapolis, Maryland. Who were 3 Americans that were involved with the signing of the treaty? The 3 Americans involved with the signing of the treaty were John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and John Jay. Which article of the treaty was most important to the Americans? The preliminary articles of peace were the most important to the Americans. They were signed on November 30th, 1782. Also, Henry Lawrence joined the negotiators, which were John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and John Jay, 2 days before the preliminary articles of peace were signed. What was the primary goal of the treaty? The goal of the treaty was to create peace between Great Britain and the United States and to end the war they had of the American Revolution. Who represented the British at the signing? Although there were 3 Americans that represented America in the signing of the treaty, there was only one British representative, and that was Richard Oswald, who represented Great Britain when peace talks began in 1782. The next and second to last event on this timeline of the American Revolution was the Constitution, which took place in 1788. I know you've been hearing the word ratified a lot with these treaties and stuff, and the definition of ratify is to put into action or put into place. So when you say you ratified a treaty, that means you put the treaty into place. The Constitution was ratified in 1788, but it was written in 1787 and has been in order since 1789. When the Constitution was taking place, there was a question that who had more power and why, and the federal government had more power than the states because each state has equal power, but the equal power of the states did not compare over to the government, so the government ruled over the states. And the problem with who had more power was, with the states each having equal power, that made them individual from one another, and making them individual from one another stopped them from getting the goal that they wanted of being united. The final event of this American Revolution timeline was the Federalist Papers. The Federalist Paper wasn't just one paper like the treaties and other constitutions in this timeline. The writers of these papers were Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. So it took a lot of work to write these papers. How many were written, and did the Americans really know the true authors? There were 85 total essays written, and no, the Americans did not know who wrote it. But when the collection of essays appeared in New York newspapers, they were under the pen name Publius. What does the name mean? The name Publius was a collective pseudonym adopted with James Madison, Hamilton, and Jay, coming from their heroic figure Publius Valerius, who created peace within the Roman government, which was under a lot of unrest. There are out of the 85 federal collection of essays, number 84 was pretty important because it is notable for saying that a Bill of Rights was not a necessary part for the U.S. Constitution. Well, you're probably wondering what Federalist means because, Federalist with 85 essays, and Federalist means a system of government in which power is divided between a central authority and constituent political units. This might be the most important reason of why we're here today, was the American Revolution on these events taking place from 1775 through 1789. I hope you enjoyed my presentation and hope you learned a lot about the American Revolution.